Let me bring in Andy Harris. He is standing by with us right now. Of course, he represents the 1st Congressional District of Maryland. Congressman Harris, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to see you, my friend.
Good to be with you tonight.
All right. Well, look, we've got a lot to discuss. There's so much happening in Congress. This has been an incredibly busy week, and I want to get to as much of it as we possibly can. But let's start with the big news of the day. George Santos was expelled from Congress. This is only the third time since, I believe, the 1860s that something like this has happened. Let's begin. Just give me your reactions to it all.
Well, I think we set a bad precedent today. Look, I'm not going to judge whether Mr. Santos is guilty or not, what he did or not, but the precedent has been since the Civil War that you only are expelled once you're convicted of the crime, not just indicted, not just accused, but convicted. I'm not sure what the rush was. The fact of the matter is that he's a duly elected representative. That's why I voted not to expel him. I don't think we should set that, I think, a fairly dangerous precedent that an indictment is enough to override the desires of your congressional district, of those voters. Because right now, I have to tell you, 750,000 people in his district are disenfranchised for several months as they do not have an elected representative. I don't think that's the role of the House of Representatives, to overrule the decision of the citizens, in this case, of the 3rd District of New York.
Yeah, I agree. It's a frightful precedent that's been established. We talked about this a little bit yesterday on the program, and like you, I am not at all defending or supporting him or any of the alleged behavior or activity, criminal or otherwise, that he may have been involved in. But still, the due process of waiting until a person is convicted of a crime just seems like the proper approach here, and I certainly agree with you. If I can, Congressman, let's go on, because so much more happening in Washington. Give us an update on the negotiations, specifically on conditions for spending for Ukraine and an overhaul of border security. Where do we stand on all of this?
Well, I think Speaker Johnson has taken the right position, which is you separate out Ukraine from the rest of that omnibus foreign relations spending bill. And I think he wants to, in some way, manage to tie it to border security. So, first of all, take out all the non-military Ukraine funding. Obviously, we make good weaponry. The Ukrainians need weaponry, but all the humanitarian and civil support really should come from Europe. Once you get that, you get it down to about 15 to 20 billion. If you can tie strict border security to that, we will save way more than that by securing our border. So again, it's going to be a tight needle to thread, but I think Speaker Johnson is trying to thread it. It's not going to happen this year. It'll probably happen in January. The clock is running out this year, but I think we'll get to that point.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. One question that I hear a lot, and I'd really love your opinion, is even if we get border security placed in here, a big question that constantly comes is whether or not the Biden administration will actually enforce the border laws that you may pass. What do you think of that?
Well, that's why the only way it's going to pass through the House is if we put metrics in and we tie the release of any funding to Ukraine in tranches and aliquots. We tie it to achievable metrics at the border, where we have to certify that, yes, we not only put in these new rules and laws in place, but they're being enforced, and that illegal border crossings and requests for asylum and parole into the United States, all of that is decreasing and brought down, ultimately, we hope within a year, to the Trump levels.
Yeah, having those metrics, I think, are critical. Is there any way, I mean, you're on appropriations, powerful committee. Is there any way perhaps that funding for Ukraine or other places could be tied to specific reductions in illegal border crossings? Has that been discussed?
It certainly has been. And it's funny, there are people in Washington who say, well, it can't be done. But because you were in Congress, we are the legislature. We write the law. If that's what we want to have done, to tie release of funding to metrics about decreases in border crossings, we certainly can. And I hope we'll set the precedent, and we certainly will.
Well, I certainly hope so as well. This is something that is so far overdue. And I'm so grateful that each of you and your colleagues continue to push for this. You know, I'm actually hearing that there's some Democrats, both on the state level as well as federal, who are beginning to themselves plead for border security. What are you hearing from Senate Democrats? So many of them are objecting to things that are on the table. What are you hearing from them right now?
Well, we certainly know that those Senate Democrats who are up for election in swing states, and there's several of them, on whom the Democrat majority depends, they're running scared about the border right now because the border's out of control. All America knows it. No matter how many times Joe Biden and Secretary Mayorkas get up, look into the camera and say, the border is secure. It's not a problem. Every American knows it is because it's now affecting every community. And of course, the fentanyl has been affecting American communities for years. They can't get away with it anymore. And I think we have a growing number of Democrats who say enough is enough. And I think if we tie this package together right, we will have Democrat support.
Yeah, I don't see, it just seems to me if it doesn't get done now, I don't know when it can get done because so many Democrats, as you mentioned, governors and mayors, major cities and states that are suffering under the consequences of these horrible border policies of the Biden administration. Now seems to be the time to get it done. You mentioned Secretary Mayorkas. You know, he did say the border is secure, operationally secure, I believe were his exact words. Has he made any about face to those comments, or is he still digging in even with Democrats saying, secure the border? It's not secure.
No, I mean, again, they're living in a make-believe world where they think this border is secure, or they think they can convince the American people that it is. The American people know much better. That's why I think Mr. Mayorkas might actually be impeached before President Biden will be impeached, because the case is being laid out very systematically against him by Mr. Green from Tennessee, who is the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. And he's laying out the case for how Mr. Mayorkas has abjectly not done what the Constitution said he should do and what he swore to do under the Constitution, which is to uphold the laws of the United States. He's not doing it. Our border is overrun. Millions of people here who should not be here. And again, it's going to come to an end because I think we now are getting a critical mass of Democrats to agree with us.
Congressman Andy Harris, let me let you go with this real quick thought. Coming up a little bit later in the program, Chad Codley is going to be joining me. He is one being accused of being in favor of political theocracy. You've been in Washington a while. Is Washington, D.C. anywhere close to a theocracy?
Well, no. Look, I mean, the bottom line is: are there men of religion in Washington? Yeah, our new speaker is one. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not. But we are not a theocracy. That's not the principles America's founded on. We're founded on freedom of religion, and that, of course, goes against anyone who would say we're a theocracy.
Got to leave it there,
Clearly,
Congressman.
we believe now. Thank
Friends,
you.
stay tuned. Much more straight ahead.